this stuff's been in Raymond all along, and it's just now finding its way out. I mean, if he only made 3 or 4 pieces a year, he wouldn't be drawing the attention that he is now, but the extraordinary amount of work gets done, and that's as amazing as anything else. And when you see a flowering of the human spirit like this, I mean, you just can't hide it under a bushel.
Is there anything else in your life that you've been as obsessed with as you seem to be with sculpture?
I was very obsessed with my business, the development and construction business, and fortunately found sculpture 7 years ago, and now the business is run by my son, and quite efficiently.
We spend a lot of time initially when we're designing a project picking out the correct areas for sculptures to interrelate with the site plan and with the buildings. We view it as an integral part just as much as the landscaping is, or the parking is, or the buildings themselves are.
That Renaissance man, that sensibility, is someone who does a lot of things and does each one better because he does the other. I think that Ray brings a kind of aesthetic to his developments, to his construction business, that he also has in his work and in his collecting of these automobiles. There's a kind of, the word precious isn't exactly right, but there's an aesthetic that's pure and clean, and a purity of line that's present in everything, and everything's neat and orderly. There's an order to it. And I think that's the way he sees his world. And if you bring that kind of order and that kind of make-do idiom to making sculpture, you're in a lot better shape, because these pieces hold together, they're compact, they're solid. And there is a positive correlation between that and putting a building up that's going to last for several generations.
We're all involved in life in a field of endeavor that chance probably has a great influence on, and who knows what we might be. Maybe I should have been a surgeon. Maybe I should have been a comedian. I don't know. And we'll never know. None of us have had the opportunity to explore all fields of endeavor or be trained. It's impossible to be trained in all fields of endeavor to find out what you'd really be best at. So the mere fact that one has had a career in business doesn't preclude, just because of that fact, the possibility of pursuing the arts. That mucked you up, didn't it?
How can you sculpt when the phone rings every few minutes?
Well, hopefully I have a flexible mind, and after 6 marriages, I think I do.
When did you start sculpting?
I started a course, I believe it was 7 years ago, this coming August, at Appalachian State University, and had a wonderful teacher.
He came into a class, finished the whole course in about a month and a half, and was way ahead of me all the time, saying, now what do I do next? And everyone else was way behind him. And, you know, it got a little aggravating at first. But as he showed his seriousness and his perseverance, he wasn't dallying, he was dead serious.
How old were you when you started taking that class?
Just prior to my 65th birthday, 64. So you don't have to add very much now to find out that I'm 104 right now, and I lie about my age. I'm really 108.
Well, you know, I think his first work was extremely honest, humorous, and sincere, and it seemed to come out of nowhere. I never saw anything like it, and I've not seen anything like it since.
Ray probably creates the sculpture he creates for the same reasons that we all create them. You just can't stop yourself. You just go ahead and you're doing it. And then as you're doing it, as I said, you have these goals that begin to develop. You hope people will look at them and get these reactions and these feelings. But I suspect Ray creates these things for much the same reason that we all create. You just can't stop yourself.
I have less fun doing a piece with a preconceived idea. It seems that I'm just the peon executing the shape then. Whereas if I can take a piece like that Peruvian onyx that I intend to do an abstract piece with, and as I work, find the lines and the color and let a shape evolve from it. That joy of exploration is more meaningful to me than working with a preconceived notion. I don't mean to belittle that sort of thing, because many people are very, very skilled at it, and great skills can do great things, great shapes. It just doesn't happen to be my joy.
Well, you do it, though. Why do you do it? I mean, it seems like you just...
Because I get a wacko idea and I decide I'm going to do it. Then I start doing it and I begin to think, you nut, why did you do this again?
I like a feel that Ray achieves. I feel for the material. I think that's absolutely essential for any artist, to get something out of the material so that he and the material work together. And Ray does that very well. He gets a feeling of the stone that really makes me feel good. It makes me feel that the material is being used the way it should be used, and that the curves, designs, shapes that come out of it are really inherent. They're in the material, and he has found them and enhanced them.
He's taken the essential components of the earth and he's shaped them into those objects that in the back of our minds and in our intellect are familiar to us. Those objects that we can recognize and yet not fully or adequately describe.
I like the fact that he's taken something that's taken millions of years to form, that's been part of this earth, and brought it to us today and made it very, very current.
I love to see people want to feel, touch, caress the stone. Some people say, hey, that feels sensuous, or I like that shape, or in the case of outdoor pieces, people lounging and sitting around them, or perhaps on a bench, just looking at them, perhaps staring, hopefully pleased.
This is really nice. You're picking up very fast.
Oh, you like that piece right there?
I try and feel them and then visualize what they're going to look like and then look at them, you know. Oh, yeah.
Most people are attracted to, quote, what they understand, unquote. I've had people come in and look at pieces and say, gee, your work is interesting and I enjoy it, but I don't understand it. It isn't a question of understanding the creation of abstract contemporary shapes. To me is simply the creation of a shape that one can enjoy inherently. There needn't be any connection with the human body or the animal form. If the shape exists and it's pleasing, it's there to be enjoyed for solely that reason. If that is accomplished, to me, that is truly creativity. One has made a shape that hasn't existed before in this world that is to be enjoyed. I sometimes stare at the piece and it stares back at me. You know, we may have a little time getting compatible, but I just keep fussing and hope I get the desired result, of course. I've had occasions when pieces of stone broke off and it changed the concept entirely. And sometimes for the better, really. It was a challenge to the mind, saying, well, hey, what do you do with this piece of stone now? You've worked on it and worked on it and worked on it, and all of a sudden this piece of onyx, yay large, broke off, and how are you going to do this? So I may go address another piece of stone and work on it. I don't work on the same pieces all the time. I move around a little. And the mind, as one is working on another piece, subconsciously or even consciously, will dwell on the challenge that exists in the other piece, and sooner or later something comes out of it.
You seem to be really fond of Egyptian onyx.
I'm fond of any stone that has different character, appearance than the norm. It can be a great pain to work it, however. The good marbles with more consistent grain structure are easier to work in terms of getting a form that one wants to define. With something like this, the stone frequently controls you rather than you controlling the stone. But it's worth the effort because of the unusual coloration and appearance that one can't get otherwise. Just absolutely vivid. And the coloration down below is like chocolate ripple ice cream. I haven't lost a toe yet, but maybe I will one of these days. I don't really know where I'm going with this piece. I started out, this piece was pretty much triangular, and it still is, and I've got to reduce that heavy bottom and skinny top, or make it more interesting within. I don't just know. I've been toying with the idea of perhaps putting a face on this surface, and this being a head in an abstract form. And what started me thinking about the humanoid form, although it might be vague, was this shape. There was cleavage down here in the stone, and I ground that area, and to me it suggests one leg forward and another behind, as though someone were stepping ahead. But I want to stare at it a bit more before I make up my mind with exactitude.
He's developed lots of ideas in his architectural designs, and I think he has the same way of developing his ideas with his sculpture here. He's not afraid to take chances with materials and subject matter.
Finished piece must want to be attracted to look around. Well, gee, this looks nice here, but where is it leading over here? What's going to happen with the shape? And if the eye is attracted, traveling around the piece, then it's successful. In other words, it can't be 4 pictures on 4 surfaces. It must be a uniform whole design-wise. This neck will indent even more so that this projection of the face will be greater, the face being on this side. And to accentuate that projection, this has to come in a good deal more. That's why it's marked. And I envision at this juncture a female form, some abstraction of one or two breasts, and it may, I don't know as yet, evolve into a piece with some paint on it. I rather like the colorful paints that Juan Miró used and Picasso, of course, used. And I think if one can enhance a piece of stone with color, that can be quite delightful. I see this face as wrapping around the corner here a bit. Perhaps an eye here and an eye here and a nose here and the mouth there, something of that nature is what I've been thinking.
He doesn't have to please anybody but Raymond. He doesn't have to worry about what some gallery owner is going to think or what the buying public is going to think about his work. He could care less. He does what he wants to do, and if people don't like it, they don't like it. But he does his designs the way he wants to do them, and he's happy with them most of the time.
Well, I do like the piece now, and it's kind of wacko. I think it can be enhanced in terms of being more in the wacko department. Perhaps more interesting, hopefully so.
Why is it that you like wacko work so much?
I can't answer. Perhaps that's me. Perhaps that's the way I'm constituted. If I did all mermaids, I don't think that would be any fun at all. But unless they were real, of course. If something's a little different, that in itself, if it's in good taste, is fun and enjoyable. Hard, my goodness. It's harder than an income tax return, I swear. I just grind forever on this, and I probably have, about 3 days work in on this, and it's got a long way to go, about 24 hours. Should be wearing a mask to protect the lungs, the respiratory system, but I really despise masks. These are plastic safety goggles, although they may not look like it, but I just, again, despise the mask, and also the ear protection that one should wear to protect hearing. Though, since I'm 8,000 years old anyway, it probably doesn't make that much difference to me, but it is in the category of do as I say, don't do as I do.
Do you think your age affects your work at all?
Probably, being senile, I'm sure it affects it to a great extent. Well, in a positive way, jesting aside, I think my age is a bit helpful, having been in the field of development and construction all my life, and have had to try to envision concepts, rooms, facades of buildings, interiors of reception areas, etc., etc. In my mind's eye in 3D, I really think it has helped me with the mind and thought process in evolving pieces of sculpture. All right, now let's go as far that way as we went this way and take a look at it. More. I'll go back to your left again.
It's also true, isn't it, that you had cancer the whole time you've been sculpting, or not?
Well, yes. 10 years ago, this summer, I had cancer of the pancreas, and they did what is known as a Whipple procedure, removing the pancreas and the spleen, and part of the stomach, and part of the intestine, a few other little goodies. And it was just found out last fall that I had a bit of recurrence, or a carcinoid tumor of the liver, which was treated with chemo this winter. And I just got back from Duke University last week, and apparently it's all in remission. So I'm one of the fortunate few that has survived cancer of the pancreas. And by golly, I'm trying to take advantage of every minute that I have, believe me, and enjoy all that there is to enjoy in this world. I also, whenever I meet someone that has a problem, try to encourage them in their attitude and tell them, hey, look at me. I'm a prize and or a bad example of what could happen. I'm still around. I'm just a little concerned about the similarity coloration-wise of mouth and this eye, although I tried to get the yellow to travel and the black to travel and the green to travel. This is just a little repetitive. As a bit of relief, although it might make it a bit more startling, I just thought of putting a touch of red on this pupil.
Does it bother you at all that 300 or 400 years from now, this piece will still exist with possibly no paint on it?
Well, I don't know how good the paint manufacturer is. I don't know whether anyone would even want the piece 300 or 400 years from now. Maybe it'll be broken up into a series of paperweights. What will be desirable several hundred years from now, who knows? Maybe compositions will be of laser beams or materials totally unimagined, lights, movement, who knows?
Well, I thought one of the appeals of working with stone is the knowledge that it would be around long after you're gone. That obviously is not that big a concern of yours.
I really wish it were the other way around.
Which one of these pieces was the most fun to do?
Oh, I really can't say that one is more fun than the other to do. There may be a few more adjectives doing some rather than others, but I think they're all fun to do. The challenge, of course, being to get a shape that is pleasing, and if it is pleasing, then it's fun. That's the joy, and to me, they're all fun. I can't wait till you get through cranking this thing so I can do some more.
You do, I guess, realize at some level that having this kind of relationship with rocks is a little weird.
Well, maybe I have a few in my head. I don't know. But I don't know that it's weird. I think it's fun. My goodness gracious. It might be weird if I were in a penitentiary working with rocks on the pile. I don't know.